Crafting up things, creating things in Dungeons and Dragons has always had an element of complexity to it, balance being one of those key elements. GameMasters here, and in the new 2024 version of the Dungeon Master's Guide, we get a section in Chapter 3 called the DM's Toolbox. In this section, it shares how to go about creating custom backgrounds for your players' characters, and as well as monsters, and how to create those backgrounds and monsters, but it also goes into a fair amount about how to create up magic items as well as magic spells. The book itself, of course, goes into how to craft up other things like adventures and full-on campaigns. But today's video, I want to focus on what it specifically tells us regarding the backgrounds, creatures, magic items, and spells. And I'll tell you up front, experienced DMs are likely already making use of the information that we're going to talk about today. And to a large extent, much of what is provided is fairly generic, meaning that you can actually take the information and easily apply it to almost any other given tabletop role-playing game. Anything from Mortborg to Dragonbane, from the various cipher system settings to even the old school Star Wars. That said, let's jump into backgrounds. As you flip through the player's handbook, you'll note that there is a large list of various backgrounds that players can choose from. For example, if you wanted to play as someone who grew up in a temple or a secluded sacred grove, you might pick the Acolyte background, which gives you proficiencies in insight and religion. Or if you wanted to play as someone who grew up in the King's Guard, but have branched out to a life of exciting adventure, you might choose the soldier background, which provides a skill proficiency in athletics and intimidation. While those are backgrounds for players and are found in the player's handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide suggests that you might want to create your own custom background for your players so that you can, well, simply put, so that you can further let them become immersed into your own crafted world. It suggests determining what the player wants to ultimately do, then pick abilities that would be appropriate for that. For example, if you were to create a background for a barbarian that is similar to Conan in most respects, we'll reference the movie a little bit here, Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'd look at Conan for inspiration, that movie. He grew up in a monastery and was highly educated, but was treated horribly, made to move rocks as punishment, and forced to walk in circles with the wheel of pain. He's very strong, so strength and intelligence and charisma would likely be his primary stats. From there, you are directed to choose an origin feat, again from the player's handbook, but it might be something like Savage Attacker, which grants to our Conan background that once per turn, when they hit a target with a weapon, they can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll against the target. And you can kind of see where things are starting to shape up for this new background. Next, you're going to want to pick two skills that are appropriate for that background. This is what the character might be proficient in, which again, the skills are found in the player's handbook, but our version of Conan might be proficient in, say, persuasion and athletics. So you'd pick those two. Picking a tool proficiency would be your next step, except our version of Conan likely only is going to use a weapon. He doesn't care too much for the delicate fingers required for the use of thieves' picks and tools, nor would he ever really want to use like a calligrapher supplies. So I'll ask you this. Down in the comments, let me know, what do you think would be a good tool for our version of Conan? Again, let me know down in the comments. The last step in creating a custom background is to smash that like button on this video. I'm kidding. It's actually choosing equipment, but I would appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. Okay, choosing the equipment. The Dungeon Master's Guide suggests assembling a package of equipment worth 50 gold pieces, but it is clear to specify not to include martial weapons or armor, as you would get those based on the class choice. And that's really all there is to it. This is pretty much a step-by-step guide, and as you follow the steps to and create custom backgrounds, you'll likely not need to reference the book all that much, but initially it is a good solid layout of instructions. Now, let's check out how to create a creature. In a similar fashion to how I described creating a background, the 2024 DMG suggests taking a look at already existing creature stat blocks and simply altering one to suit your needs. While we do not yet have the new monster manual, and I'm sure that it will have a bit more to say about the specific and finer details of monster creation, what we get here is more than enough for us to jump in and make our kind of own nasty little critter. It offers up to make minor alterations, things that won't impact the monster's overall functionality, which helps to keep the complexity down. You can do things like taking an ogre stat block and applying it to a human, but alter the size to make it a medium humanoid instead of a large giant. Or you can tweak a creature's intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, make it smarter, more clever, or more cunning. It does, however, suggest leaving strength, dex, and constitution alone, as those stats can alter the monster's attack bonus, damage, armor class, hit points, and ultimately impact its overall challenge rating. In essence, you are giving something a new skin, a new presentation. Take, for example, the wide variety of methods out there. You've got ice methods, magma methods, even steam methods. Well, what if you wanted to create up a fog method? You might take the steam method stats, but remove any mention of steam and give it fog-like movement. This section also suggests altering languages, proficiencies, even adding or removing or altering various senses. Perhaps our fog method, while still having dark vision out to 60 feet, perhaps when in a cloud or low ground fog, it has dark vision out to 120 feet. We also can't forget spells, because many monsters have spells listed in their stat block. These are easy enough to alter. Perhaps you can just change the school of the spells the monster has, or perhaps you can give it one a new custom-made spell, which we're going to check out in a moment. One thing it also suggests is to keep balance by not removing a spell that does damage and replacing it with one that doesn't. Well, unless you're specifically making a wildly different type of monster. It also suggests altering up the attack as well as the damage type. Perhaps the players encounter what by all appearances looks to be a mighty red dragon, and they, the players, start preparing everything that they have to give themselves protection from flames and fire, only for that mighty red dragon to belch out poison instead. There's a twist. It also suggests adding or altering the various traits that creatures may have. For example, it might have an aversion to fire, which in our red dragon's case, perhaps that's why it doesn't breathe fire, and somehow develop the ability to breathe poison instead. Or perhaps it's a slad host, but doesn't realize that the slad tadpole is altering its breath weapon, but that when the characters do manage to take down the red dragon, a wildly hostile slad tadpole may burst out from the dragon's innards. Of course, now we need to create up a fun new magic item that might be found in our poison-breathing red dragon's lair. Creating up magic items is really not terribly difficult. Overall, like the background and monster, the DMG offers up simply to tweak one or more existing items. It's a bit more involved, sure, but the concept is this. A potion of climbing can be a potion of swimming. A wand of fireballs can become a wand of frostbolts. Those are simply things that you can do to create up something new and unique. You can also alter the magic item's form. For example, you can turn the ring of the ram into a helmet. It'll still do the same thing that the ring does. It's just a helmet instead. Or perhaps you can take a cloak of protection, and instead of wearing it on your back, it's now a boots of protection, which would still offer up the same +1 to your armor class, only now it's on your feet. Another suggestion it gives is to alter the damage type, akin to how we changed the damage type of the red dragon's breath weapon from fire to poison. You could easily make a flame tongue sword do poison damage instead of fire damage. Perhaps it would be bathed in a sickly green glow instead of in a flaming, licking fire. Of course, you can also combine items together. For example, take the properties of a helm of comprehend languages and combine it with those of a helm of telepathy. There are lots of magic items out there that could become a touch more powerful and unique when combined together. Likewise, and this is my suggestion, you could also just as easily remove an effect from a magic item. Let's say that the helm of telepathy can only cast detect thoughts or suggestion, as in either it can do this or it can do that, but not both. You don't get to pick which one. Well, the DM does, but the player doesn't. But what if we want to create up something new, that will fit into our poison-breathing red dragon's lair? Something where we aren't talking about taking an already existing item, but instead are creating up something brand new. Well, the new DMG simply tells us that we can create one from scratch. It suggests starting off simple, which makes sense. We don't want to really throw something out there that's A, going to take us a week to research and create, and B, be so overpowering that it melts anything that the characters throw it at. So, simple. Let's think simple here. What could be an item that our red dragon would be guarding? And I'm thinking some kind of a ring. First, we need to determine its magic item power by rarity. Referencing, and I'm trying to find my ring. I've got one around here somewhere that's perfect for this, but referencing this chart, and I think it would be fun to go right down the middle with rare. This would give us a max spell level of 5 and provide up to a +2 bonus. The maximum spell level simply means that this is the highest level spell effect that the item should have. And the maximum bonus would indicate something like, does it grant +2 bonus to armor class, saving throws, or ability checks? Next, we need to determine if the item requires attunement. Now, for this ring, however, I don't think that it will. I want it to be that when the ring is found, anyone can slip it under their finger and have access to what it can do. Plus, I'd like for it to also be able to be passed around to the characters as needed. So what kind of ring could we create? And I need to make a special note here. There is actually an entire chapter, or an entire section rather, found in chapter 7 that goes into detail, much more detail as to how to create up magic items. It includes things like time and cost, raw material requirements, but this is more for what to do should the player characters want to create a magic item. This ring, however, is it's divine direct from you, the Dungeon Master. So we're not going to be too concerned with gold cost or raw materials or anything like that for this creation. Now, I think that our ring should be in the form of Dragon's Head. Yeah, you guys have all seen this at the end of my videos, but with it being rare in nature, it'll have the capability of up to a 5th level spell. And here's my thought. Ring of the Poisoned Heart. When wearing this ring, whatever poison damage is taken is instead turned into healing up to the wearer's maximum. So let's say that our custom-made Conan background character, who has 112 hit points, but is down to 79, finds this ring, puts it on, and the dragon breathes its poison breath at him. Normally, he'd take 5d4 poison damage, but instead, he'll heal for 16, putting him up to 95 hit points. And you think that's too powerful? Well, let me know what you think about that, or what you would have the ring do down in the comments. Then, let's check out what the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide has to say about creating spells. Creating a custom spell has always been fun. Fun in that when an NPC or monster casts it, the description, the effects, what all it does can really throw your seasoned players for a loop. But at its core, a spell needs a name. We're going to call this one Grain's Grasp. In my world, Grain is an all-powerful necromancer. He's the big bad evil guy. Just to give you context of the spell we are creating here. The Dungeon Master's Guide speaks of balance, but really all it says regarding balance is that if a spell is just that good that a caster would want to use it all the time, then it's likely too powerful. And that's really all it mentions about balance. I mean, I get it. You can have the spell Fireball do something crazy like 500d 5,000 damage. I mean, you could, but that would be grossly overpowered. But my complaint here is that the DMG doesn't exactly specify what is considered too powerful. In other words, there's no set formula to go by when creating your spell. In fact, there isn't even a set formula covering any of the creations that we've made so far, which again is why I feel that the information listed is a bit more on the generic side, and is also why it mentions to reference already established backgrounds, monsters, items, and spells as inspiration. But I digress a touch. Once you've figured out the magical boundary of balance, you'll want to determine the spell's identity. In our case, Grain's Grasp will be a necromancy spell. Adding to that, we want to decide its duration, range, and area. And I've got an idea that I want Grain's grasp to extend out from him, similar in look to the black mist that Death Eaters do in Harry Potter, but it'll be able to reach out to 30 feet. For damage, I think I'll limit this to being a level 4 spell instead of a level 5. Referencing this spell's damage chart, we can see that at level 4, it recommends 60-10 damage for a single target and 7d6 for multiple. Our spell will target just one, but I've got a fun twist that I want to do, so for balance, I'm going to consider it to have the damage of actually now a 3rd level spell. Yeah. Maybe 4th, I don't know. We got to tweak it a little bit. But it's going to do necrotic damage. And here's what I've come up with. Grain's Grasp. It's a 4th level necromancy spell. The casting time is 1 action, has a range of 30 feet. Its components are verbal and somatic, and its duration is instantaneous. Now, what you're going to do is extend your hand in a chilling gesture, summoning the malevolent touch of Grain's dark power to wither and weaken a creature. Choose one creature within range to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 5d10 necrotic damage, and its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn, as shadows and decay grasp at its limbs. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and suffers no reduction speed. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points by this spell, it dies, and you may immediately animate its corpse as if you had cast Animate Dead on it. The animated creature remains under your control for 1 hour before crumbling to dust or decaying beyond reanimation. After 1 hour, the corpse is no longer viable for Animate Dead. At higher levels, when you cast this spell using a spell slot of 5th level or higher, the necrotic damage increases by 1d10 for each slot level above 5th. I might need to kind of tweak that higher level damage a little bit, but creating a custom spell is really not terribly difficult. It's getting that balance just right. All in all, the book does a decent enough job of providing step-by-step instructions and guidelines for whatever it is that you may want to create. But again, at the end of the day, a lot of what is provided is going to already be being done by those that have been in the game for a while. Of course, that doesn't mean that there aren't some fun nuggets inside for the experienced DM. There are, and I'm of the opinion that even a DM that's been doing this since the 1980s, you're going to get a little bit of something out of this book. My name is Brian, and I'm one of the ones that's been playing and DMing Dungeons & Dragons since the 1980s, and I thank you greatly for watching today's video. If you got anything out of it, all I ask is that you give the like button a thumbs up. I also want to give a heart-warmed thank you to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters. It is through their generosity that I didn't need to place sponsored ads in today's video. If you'd like to become a YouTube or Patreon supporter, and I'll leave a link down below me here in my little talking box, as well as down in the description. I'll also invite everyone that's watching to check out the GameMasters Discord. We've got a great group of folks over there, and we can get certainly pretty lively at times, but I'll toss that link down in the description as well. Dungeons & Dragons, while not perfect, has shown in the new 2024 Player's Handbook and in this new 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide that it does have the flexibility for you to be able to make the entire game your own. You can make it what you want. In past editions, we've always had that flexibility, but this new DMG makes it a point to emphasize the freedoms that the Dungeon Master actually has, and I do like that element a lot. Are there elements that could be expanded upon? Yeah, absolutely, sure. But then again, we'd have a book that could easily reach out into the 900-page mark, and at that point, honestly, that's too much book. At the end of the day, the new 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide is exactly that. As Barbosa would say, a guide, as opposed to a set of rules. It offers up suggestions and scenarios, and while it's not all encompassing of every scenario out there, well, I'll say it this way. That's what you've got me for. I know, shameless plug there. To that end, let me ask one final question. What is a scenario or situation where you've encountered a wall and trying to create up a custom background, creature, magic item, or magic spell? Let me know down in the comments, and let's see what solution we can come up with. Until next our paths cross, may you, well, craft up something fun and very kick-ass.